Hi, welcome to class. We're the only two right now, but the other ones will show up eventually, right? I hate my life. I hate my life. A Professor Sunreis Productions!
Hello class, Professor Sunreis here. In today's class we're taking a look again at a replay analysis with Dragon Link, but this time it's not me playing, but it's the top 32 Aaron, I forgot their last name, from YCS London. He's of course, I think he's a well-known Dragon Link player. I'm not into the whole Dragon Link, Dragon Yu-Gi-Oh circle for a long time, so I don't know a lot of the bigger names or like slightly smaller but still big names like the Aaron guy. But I heard like from Farfa in stream that they play a lot of Dragon Link in the past and they're known to be a Dragon Link player. So I might have thought, okay, maybe I'm not feeling to the cleanest. I'm like at 70-80% there with my Dragon Link skills again because I haven't played the deck in a long time, or like in a longer time, like a few months now. So I just wanted to check out how they are operating the deck, how they are executing their combos, where their priority lies. Is it on the Rocket engine? Is it on the Bystial engine, etc., etc.? So in today's replay, we will be taking a look at the feature map they had, and I think it was somewhere in Swiss. So without further ado, don't forget to like and subscribe, leave some feedback down in the comment section below, and let's get right into the video. So here we are in the replay. We have Aaron McInnes against Daniel Polchik. Aaron is on Bystial, Daniel is on Runic, and of course, if you've played Bystial / Dragon Link, Bystial Control, whatever you want to call it, for a few games, a few weeks, you know that Runic is probably arguably even the hardest matchup, because against Kashtira you have very strong Lon engine and you have good amount of spots in Bystial Control and still decent amount of slots in Dragon Link to beat those cards, a lot of those decks in Kashtira. But against Runic, the amount of Lon engine you can play is super hard, and the amount of engine that they have that still beats yours, even though you can maybe play against them, unlike against Kashtira, they still have way too much to hit you. So this will be a very hard matchup, but as you've probably all known, I think Aaron won this match, so let's see how Aaron managed to do so. So they have an opening hand, they do have a black metal, so they link that off into a striker dragon, chaining one striker dragon, chaining two black metal. That's pretty standard. You rather protect the one on board from stuff like a gamma, because if you die to one gamma on the black metal, so you'd argue that you want to chain block that, you would die to a gamma, to a Veiler, to an Ash later on in the combo anyway, so might as well protect the striker dragon you have here to not lose the body you have on board, because if you lose this body, the search here doesn't really value to anything anyways, because you cannot use it to extend your place. So they trigger that, they activate a regain here now. If you have a hard draw regain, you would always activate it at this point exactly. Before, if you do it before, it's just a misplay. It's not a big one, but it's a misplay because you give your opponent unnecessary options, like a knowledge. But now you can use the regain to banish, to recycle the banished striker dragon, which you banish off the Red as Darkness Metal Dragon. So you get a nice draw here. Getting striker dragon into the graveyard into the deck again is huge, because it is a very good card in grind games. Getting back your rockets out of the graveyard can be huge, especially the recharger with stuff like the Bystials in the graveyard. It's like a very nice play. So they use the Red as Darkness Metal Dragon to revive this Black Metal Dragon. It's pretty standard here. And they decide to go for, let's see what they are going for. They are going for a Romulus, meaning that they have at least still a decent amount of cards in hand, which are good. Look at this Chad here, just smiling, so wholesome. So getting the Ravine. And then they activate it? Question mark? No, they activate a quick launch. So the opening hand was black metal, regained, and what am I saying? Black metal, regained, and the quick launch here. And maybe they've drawn into it as well. Who knows? But those are some pretty good cards. So now, if you have the additional extenders, what I really like to do as well is make a very early seal here to play around Nibiru. They activate a Ravine, pitching a second black metal out of the hand, and then resolving the Ravine here, and going into Lupellion. That is a very good pickup, because that means that they use the Serenade here and they have in hand. This is not the ideal Bystial, but it definitely gets the job done, especially because of the hard draw regain. They tribute that for Lupellion. Effect Serenade is sending a Magnamid here, and then they use Lupellion to get into a Branded Beast. And they have no rocket engine. They set one, and it seems like they're passing. So you might wonder, why did they go for that route exactly? I think it is because you have hard draw regain, making committing into the Bystial package more valuable for you than having a Savage it is unlikely that the opponent knows what the other one is on. So in round 7, you could know what you're up against Runic in round 7, but it's not guaranteed. And I could argue Savage is even better against Runics than the Bystial package, but having access to Regain plus Branded Beast there is huge because Ceremonial let Aaron allow to send a Magnum into the graveyard. If Aaron had like a Drew Swarm or a Baldrake in hand, I could see myself not going not going for the whole package because they have the quick launch, right? So that what I could have done also, and what I do most of the time, is I probably would have committed into the Bystial package a little bit earlier, and then used the one Bystial I have and the Romulus to go into a seal, and then use the quick launch to still get onto the Savage. So that also would have been a play. But having the immediate Branded Beast pop is also, of course, decent, and not committing all of the resources you have into your board is, especially against Runic, is definitely the way to go because you want to be able to grind with them a little bit as well. So they don't end on Savage, like I said. There are arguments for both. I probably would have played into the Savage as well here, especially blind game 1. But let's see, maybe if they have like a set imperm there as well, they think they have enough disruption, keeping the boot sector in the hand of as well, having the Tracer in graveyard, so they do have quite a good amount of follow-up. So the opponent is on Naturia Runic. Using the Camellia here, normal summon effect to send, you definitely want to chain your Regain there, because you would want to do that at some point anyways, and you definitely want to do that before they can use their Camellia to get a free body out of the graveyard. So you definitely do that ASAP. Chaining 1 Sacred Tree, chaining 2 Magnamid. Pretty standard, searching a Blessing there. Nothing we haven't seen already on this channel. Let's see, I think I probably want to go even faster here. So they activate the Blessing to summon out of hand. Hard draw Sunflower, interesting. Definitely don't want to see that, but now they have an Omni Negate online, and not an Omni Negate, a Monster Negate. Problem for the Runic play here is Branded Beast just deals with this pretty decently. So they activate the Fountain. No hesitation on the on Aaron here, so they definitely know what they're doing. Definitely will be interesting to see how they handle this one. They activate Tip. We've seen, let's quickly take a look back. We see like Tip, Destruction, and that's another Fountain, or maybe a Slumber. One of the two. So definitely 3 Runic cards in hand, 2 quick spells. The Tip here is fine. So I don't think Aaron played Ashes in their deck anyways. So the Banish a Baldrake, that's a little annoying. You could use Regain here to recycle it. Interesting that they didn't go for that. Very interesting. I probably would have used Regain to recycle the one of Baldrake here, especially in this matchup. It is actually quite decent. Getting rid of one of the Synchros can be huge as a disruption, especially because you already have the Magnamid on field. Interesting. Definitely very interesting. I argue that they are keeping their seal for a Fountain here, or until it gets forced out. Let's see what will happen here. Definitely holding like a lot of the disruption is key against Runic. They struggle to force out stuff, and you probably want to wait till they force out stuff. We just saw the third, was it the search target of the Runic? I'm not quite sure. Let's just see. So they definitely, like I said, have a lot of Runic cards there. They thinking about activating, what is it, Flashing Fire to pop that. Banish 2. Oh no, it's the pop. It's so hard to get to see apart from each other. Popping the Lubellion is weird. I don't know why the opponent did that. Having a seal there is way more valuable. Like, they can still use that. Yeah, of course you want to get the draw, but wouldn't you put it onto another one? Now they go for the Slumber, so they did have that and had not the Fountain. Slumber to probably summon. They used their Branded Beast to tribute something. Probably pop the Fountain. And then they get hit by the Runic Destruction. This is why you want a Savage into this matchup. They bench don't really matter. Branded Beast gets gone, gets popped here. They don't pop anything on the opponent because it doesn't resolve, and now they go for a draw 3. And you probably want to chain your seal there to get rid of that. But because the opponent didn't have does have the Sunflower on board, it doesn't really work. Definitely weirdly played by Aaron there. I would have used my disruption way earlier there. So they kind of get outgassed here, I think. They draw 3 now. They draw 1. Yeah, they do have some plays, but a draw 3 is huge. They did use the whole board basically, but I still think it's kind of weird. So they use the second blessing, which they've drawn, to summon back the Camellia. But honestly, this seems weird. The safeguard comes off the seal, so it was seal and then chain the blessing. Because now they can summon a Sunflower out of the graveyard again. They summon safeguard because they have Lubelli in the graveyard. It gives the most follow-up. This will survive, arguably even. Then they can search another Tracer, or like they haven't gone through the Chaos Dragons either, so they could go into these as well. Because you've already resolved Magnamut, that's definitely a play. What I would have done to this turn here is probably use the Branded Beast way earlier on the at last on the tip, because you know if the opponent resolves tip, it's like a very huge choke point, because tip can search Runic Destruction. So at this point, you're basically forced to use the Branded Beast. Would have probably used Branded Beast on the Sunflower then to get that out of the way. They've already used one blessing, which they've searched. So the likelihood of them having another blessing is, of course, lower. And then you can use the seal to out the fountain if they want to go for a draw. That's definitely how I would have done it. And would have used the regained onto the Baldrake, because I want to be able to summon the Baldrake off the seal, because if they want to commit into like Synchros here, the Baldrake will be huge. But I can also see you still summoning a Safer, but I still probably would have just recycled the Baldrake. It's a huge one-off into this matchup. In the end phase, search a Levy here, that's huge, of course, in this matchup, like in basically any matchup, especially with Regain on board. That is huge. Also, a thing that I've noticed is that Regain is actually way better than Branded Beast into this matchup. So a lot of times how I play this out is I activate Regain first and don't really care about Branded Beast, because you probably won't get a huge value of that anyways. And then you get the Regain out, and then in the following turn you can get Branded Beast out if they're out at the Regain, and then get your Regain back. So that's very good. Safer sticks onto the board. But here, Levy is insane, because chaining 1 Levy, chaining 2 Regain, chain blocking your Levy is insane. Regained on the seal, and they chain Runic Destruction to pop the seal, so they have another one, not a seal, sorry, a Regain that is annoying. Banishing 4 there, don't really care about those banishes. But Levy now resolves, popping both of these. Opponent is wondering if you can protect there. I would argue that you can protect your fountain, right, with that. You apparently can't. Interesting. Apparently you can't. Was it negated? I'm confused. Why? Anyways, it is how it is, I guess. So now they are activating like a Magnamut. It seems like it's a Magnamut. It's a Bystial for sure. We will know now. They banish Tyranny because the opponent probably doesn't have anything in their graveyard. Could have used the Magnamut onto the Fusion, but it doesn't really matter all too much. They try to use Sunflower Negate here, milling 2. I think that's Kelbeck. Might be a Kelbeck. They chain Imperm on that, which they had the whole turn there. Then they chain Book of Moon. Magnamut gets removed here into the graveyard. It doesn't resolve. That is huge, but the opponent still has a Safer. Apparently it wasn't a Shuffler, because the opponent is not usually using a Shuffler. A Miller, maybe. It is a Kelbeck, and they're not using it. Interesting. I would have used it by this now, because it's actually a decent. They've had a decent amount of cards out of the deck already, right? So the likelihood that you hit something for the opponent is quite low. Getting rid of random one-offs like the Chaos Strengths, which I haven't gone through and have access to, is huge. So I probably would have milled there. But maybe there are arguments against both sides. And Daniel just decided to scoop. Definitely some interesting choices there by both players. Let's get into the next game here. Definitely very interesting. I would have probably done a little differently, like I said already. On Daniel's part, I'm not too sure, because I'm not very confident with the deck like Runic, but for Aaron's part, I would have done at least a few things differently. What I think is mandatory to do differently is use the Branded Beast once the Runic Destruction gets out, because I don't see baiting with it as like all too beneficial. Of course, the Runic Destructions doesn't do a whole lot on the board. It's because you already have an Imperm to out like the Sunflower, so you always had options to play around that, so you're not forced to do that. And maybe it's correct to not use your Branded Beast and force out or bait the first Runic Destruction on the Branded Beast because the opponent thinks it's good. But overall, it was a little weird. But I guess the Aaron's placing speaks for itself, and maybe I'm just a big Dumbo. So let's go game 2. Runic, of course, go first. Destruction here, that's always a good sign. Having one less destruction in the deck is insane. Pitching Magnamut, you gotta love to see it because that's one less Magnamut you have to deal with, but that also probably means there's another Magnamut in the hand waiting for you. The normal summon, Camilla, whatever it's called, Sentry, Search Blessing, then link off into a Coral Dragon. Tips, so they have like a lot. Probably searching a destruction here. Oh, Smithing Storms. Oh, a Dark Ruler hit. Okay, they do cite the Dark Rulers into this matchup. That's understandable. It is a decent tool. They go for Fountain for 3 with a Gary, so they go for a Barone here. Probably at some point. Drawing another one. They do use Keldo with a Mudora, so that's 2 Shufflers. That is insane. Searching Kelbeck. That is huge. Kelbeck, most of the time being another disruption. A hand trip against Bystials is insane, or Dragon Link in general. They draw another one. They should have like 5 cards in hand. They have Blessing, Kelbeck, and they draw 3. Yeah, they have at least 5 cards in hand. They set 1 and pass on Barone plus that. They do use the Nibiru. Barone negates that, so that's no Barone negate. But the problem is, if you do that, the opponent will just use Barone and stand by face to summon Camellia and get back into Engine, which is why I'm not a huge fan of Nibiru. And it's the only thing which I don't like about Aaron's deck is the Nibiru in the main deck. It just seems very weird, in my opinion, but maybe it is decent. So they decide to imperm the Barone in the standby phase. That's interesting. So that's 2 non-engine pieces gone, and they still have to deal with a lot of disruption, especially the Runic. So that's 4 cards in hand. They go for Blessing, summon Camellia, so they still get into the Naturia package, but it's fine. They dump the Sunflower, which they want to revive off the Camellia at some point if Aaron decides to commit, and Aaron just scoops here, 28 minutes on the clock. Definitely understandable. You probably won't be breaking that board. You do have the time benefit because you can play Scarlight, and Runic is really bad under time, but honestly, with 28 minutes, you won't be getting this into time anyways, and you'd rather save your brain power for like a game 3, especially because this is just round 8, right? So there's still a lot to go for, and tomorrow as well. So game 3, we have a Lubellion in the opening hand. That's, you gotta love to see it. Also a Chaos Base, which I saw, though, so that's a pretty good hand. They search a Magnamut, of course. Not of course. But they search a Magnamut. Chaos Base Absol Jesus Christ, that is insane. Ash on the Chaos Base doesn't really accomplish a lot here, because Tracer still will be searched. They have a Magnamut, so that's still a lot of gas, and if you can get this Chaos Base alive, it is huge. Magnamut on the Absol is pretty okay. Effect Magnamut here. Now you use your Lubellion. This will be interesting where Aaron will lead this. I'm a huge believer of the Regained, but depending on what Aaron has, maybe they go for Branded Beast. They do go indeed for Regained, so maybe I'm on the right track with my theory in this matchup. And they go for the Striker Dragon here. Effect Boot Sector. Look at Daniel, so wholesome. Gotta love to see it. Gotta love a good sport in this game, right? So they go for the Striker Dragon, search Boot Sector, and now they just go for probably, yeah, Romulus. Effect to Romulus to search the Ravine. Regained will hopefully be drawing something good here. Oh, getting there. Oh, did they add Ravine here? Or did they have Ravine Harder? Didn't look like they added it here, but it doesn't really matter for us, right? So they have Ravine in hand, of course. We know that. So there's another Bystial, the Drew Swarm on the Striker Dragon. Do you go for Regain or do you go for Chaos Base here? That will be the question. They do, of course, have a Seal here. It looks, yeah, they go for Regain first. You can do that, of course, because this is like, you can use it no matter how often you want to. They go for the Seal here, pretty standard. And now they go for set 1 and pass. Interesting, not committing into a Savage. I would like to know the reasoning for that, because I feel like getting on that Savage seems so good into this matchup, right? But maybe they're still playing. Maybe they just said it. No, they're actually resolving Magnamut here in end phase. Very interesting, because we know that they have Boot Sector. We know that they have Normaled. And maybe they sided out a Tracer, and they had to go like that? Because I don't know why you wouldn't go for like a Bystial here. Not a Bystial, sorry. What's it called? a Savage. That seems very weird. So Runic Tip resolves here. So no Ash. So if you have like a lot of non-engine, I could see the point, but with having not a lot of non-engine, this seems weird. So they go. Oh my god. They go for the Smithing Storm here to summon, pitch a Sacred Tree to do that, and then go for the regain in response to that, targeting Magnamut probably, and then Imperm on the Hugin so that they don't get Fountain. Imperm on Hugin definitely the way to go in this matchup. 100% because it is hard to play under Fountain and still keep up, even for a deck like this. So we see, like, I think it was like one Naturia card and a Blessing, like a Naturia monster. Oh no, they had a Keldo in hand. We know that. So there might be some issues there, but it doesn't look like too bad. And then they normal summon the Mole Cricket or whatever it's called. And we get to see a Chain of Blessing targeting the Mole Cricket. So they get these, summoning the Sunflower out of hand because they had it on hard run. Summon double Camellia. Effect Camellia, which they haven't used yet, to send another tree, and then get into a Blessing. But at this point, the opponent doesn't really have a lot of Runic cards left. They have 2 cards in hand. One was Keldo, I think, 99%, and one is Blessing for sure. So you do have some cute synchro lines, but Seal does deal with those quite effectively, even with the Sunflower on board. So they go for a Charge Warrior, effect Charge Warrior to draw. Seems fine. Maybe everyone still has like a Nib in hand and is feeling very confident. They go for a Blessing again to summon out of the graveyard. They go for a Baldrake here. Hot draw Baldrake. Definitely interesting tool. So they have at least Ravine, Boot Sector, Baldrake in hand, but they do have to have an additional card in hand, right? This is quite interesting because they, like I said, they didn't go for a Savage where I thought they would go for a Savage for sure. How did the Kelbeck get into the graveyard exactly? Because of the Sunflower, of course, negating the Baldrake. But they're not looking like they're using it, so now they can go Seal on the Charge Warrior, I would assume. Wait, why is the Seal gone? Did it get negated? But like, you can't negate both that and that. I'm confused. So they're using, oh, okay, now they're using this to negate the Seal. Oh, okay, that makes sense. So now the Seal triggers, they had to get rid of both of them because they can only use their mill effect to negate once per turn. Hard ones, of course. So they can make summon a Safeguard of the Seal. They have a Magnum resolved again, so they do have a Levy. And Levy definitely makes this, in a game set like this, way more accessible. They do summon a Camellia of the Camellia, and they go for probably a Shengying. They go for Baron. You definitely have to go for Shengying, I think, in this game state, because Baron just doesn't cut it with the amount of cards Aaron still has access to. And Shengying is super hard to out for this deck. Less so in a game state like this, because they do have a lot of tools, of course, but Baron also just doesn't cut it, in my opinion. It's definitely not the play. They do have a Camellia as well. That's probably a Levy again. Yeah, Levy. They do have Camellia as well to get the Sunflower, but honestly, Baron plus Camellia is not good enough. You would probably just lose your Sunflower anyways. So let's go into the turn of Aaron. They have a Levy in hand. They still have both field spells as well, so there should be a lot to do for them. My theory is that they sided on one Tracer, but that just seems weird. I don't understand why they didn't go for that. So they used the Levy to bait out the Baron, basically. Banishing Baldrake as well. Probably have to do that because of the amount of cards they have in graveyard. So it gets negated. They link off into Dark or Seal. I think Dark, okay. Is there something in the opponent's graveyard? I don't think there is, but Crash, Dark, Surge, Red Darkness Metal Dragon, Black Metal Dragon, sorry, is huge because they haven't used their normal summon. Seyfried can add back a Lubellion there, or like a Levy, but Levy is hard once per turn, I think. It's hard once per turn. So that's probably just a Lubellion add back, go for like more Bystial Engine. They still have to play through 2 Camellias, basically. Dark does deal with that, so basically. So it's not the end of the world. They use a Seyfried here. It gets negated by the Sunflower. Then they use Boot Sector Launch to get into the Tracer. which makes sense, but you would have had that play last turn anyways, even if you've committed into your first line. Oh, no, you wouldn't have had because you would have had to use boot sector. So I guess if you I guess you could argue because Aaron had to normal summon Tracer, meaning that they would have had to use boot sector launch to get the rocket engine going. This is the reason why they didn't go for that one. So now they even have a black metal normal summon. That's probably the top deck, I would assume. So now they go for a Pisty route, effect black metal. Pretty easy here. Go for the Red as Darkness Metal. You can banish that for. You can banish Tracer for that. Actually, they banish Pisty for that. So don't even commit into Borderland. Interesting choice. They go Battle Phase here. Okay, that's quite interesting. Why wouldn't you commit further? Flashing Fires. Okay, they're scared of that. That pops. Interesting. Not chaining Tracer there, also interesting because you do. Why wouldn't you chain Tracer? That's a misplay. You can't argue that this is not a misplay. Definitely, Tracer should have been chained onto the Red as Darkness Metal Ring. There's no arguing against that. And now they go for a Scarlight. Yeah, that's a very good card. Scarlight wipe the board here, getting rid of most of the resources, and then just going for a Lubellion. Effect Lubellion, get the Branded Beast, get Branded Regained, and then control the game off that. They are on one card in hand, which wasn't really good. I think, and that should be game. Spoiler alert, yeah, with the amount of time left in the video, that does look a lot like game. They haven't resolved Magnum, I think. No, they haven't. So that seems a little weird. Definitely a few weird plays in this game as well. I'm not too sure why they just didn't go for Battle Phase. If they play the Scarlet anyways, going for Battle Phase and just getting rid of the Sunflower just seems like the best play you have. And then you can even resolve your Magnum as well, right? So I'm a little confused by the decision making there by Aaron. But then again, maybe I'm just missing a lot of stuff. So definitely let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Maybe I'm missing a lot and I'm just like shooting at this unknowing Aaron, and they are just the wisest man ever, and they just see stuff which I just cannot see because I'm just skimming over these, of course. So they go for the what's it called, Slumber or whatever, to get to Gary at back Fountain. They chain Regained, target Magnamid. So they get back Fountain, but honestly, if they don't have another Runic card, it doesn't really do anything. And even if they have, they can just negate the Branded Beast. So they did have a Keldo the whole time in hand, which I think I saw. They go for End Phase. Okay, End Phase Keldo. Interesting. Yeah, they have one card in hand, so that's the Fountain, I guess. Look at Daniel going like, yeah, I'm not going to win this one. But let's see. Maybe they can still do it. Probably not, though. Spoiler alert. Magnamid resolved an End Phase, did add something, but it doesn't really matter a whole lot at this point. Comfortable life points lead. Their normal summon safer probably was the target to add there. You could argue to go for like a Tracer and go for like a Barone and just control the board of this alone. But Safred is a good card in this matchup, in this game state, just because it does give a follow-up, but they just decide to go Battle Phase here. Actually not, they're not going Battle Phase yet. They link into the Striker Dragon, which they recycled, I think, of the Regained. Of the Chaos Space in the beginning. Of the Regained it was, yeah. They go for Safred, trying to get the Lubellion. They chain their Keldo, putting them back into the deck and some of their own engine. Of course, pretty standard play. If you've played into THESU format, you know that your Safred is never going to resolve, and it's not really a reliable resource back then, but now it's just Bay. They use the Regained to draw one, and then they can use, what's that, a Magnamid, I think? Yeah, Magnamid here on the black mat. It doesn't really matter. Effect Magnamid, make a Tomb, and then they just have full combo, right? They just summon back a Safred. They are able to use the Mole Cricket in the graveyard, but that gets ashed, and now Aaron just has everything, right? They go for probably Safred again here to search a levy. Yeah, Safred search levy, which got recycled by the guy called Keldo. That should be a levy. Yeah, it's a dark level 8. I think levy is the only one they played. And then they still just have to find game. Getting rid of one card in hand is actually fine, I think. But here they go for let's see, Link 3 Unicorn. Yeah, they go for Unicorn, and then they use that on Gary, pitching the Ravine, which they had in hand the whole time. Summon Levy for, I'd argue, 3 lights to extend. That's something which comes up very little, but when it comes up, it feels so good. Summon Red as Darkness Metal Dragon. Then they can go for Lubellion, which they haven't. I think they have gone for that, right? They've gone for the Lubellion, but Red as Darkness Metal Dragon summons the Lubellion out of the Graveyard with the access code. That is more than 8k, and that is just game. So, a lot of very interesting plays there by Aaron. This is, of course, by no means like a definitive analysis about the gameplay. Just like a quick glance over it, basically. Just very hard to do so because you don't really have access to all of the hand information. Which was something which is just missing in this in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Konami cast all the time, because I think they want to protect the integrity of the game and not wanting to have viewers shout cards in hand into, for the players to hear. So it's maybe just a necessary evil to play. But what we've seen and what I try to do as well is setting up Regained over Branded Beast into the Runic matchup is definitely the way to go. Putting a very little emphasis actually on the Savage access against Runic, which is why I thought I wanted to play Dragon Link in the first case, so that I have like a Savage on the end board against Runic, but then again it's only 1 negate, so it's kind of easy for Runic to just play through that, and you do have to commit at like 1.5 cards for that, usually maybe sometimes even 2. So against Runic exactly, sometimes it is maybe just smarter to save those resources. Hope you guys could learn something from that replay. I definitely did, and I would probably turn down my amount of gas I put into my end board against Runic even lower than I already did. Hope you guys enjoyed this class. Class is dismissed. You guys are free to leave. Professor Sunreis out. Peace.